Do you feel like you're barely keeping your head above water? That no matter how hard you try, meaningful progress remains out of reach? Heather gets that. She battled an eating disorder for years before seeking help. Now in recovery, Heather is here to tell you that positive change is possible even when it doesn't feel that way. Join her as she shares openly about her struggles and small triumphs. Fair warning though, Heather doesn't hold back. Her candid story may trigger some. But for those wanting honesty, hope, and healing, this is 1% Better with Heather. The information and stories shared on 1% Better are based on host Heather's personal experiences with eating disorders and mental health challenges. Heather is not a licensed doctor, therapist, dietitian, or other health professional. Her advice and opinions should not be taken as professional medical advice. Please consult your physician or a qualified health provider regarding any medical or health-related issues. 1% Better also contains descriptions of eating disorders that may be triggering for some listeners. Discretion is advised.
Hey there, my little gappers, and welcome to 1% Better with Heather. Today I have a very special guest in the studio, sort of, in the studio in Ontario. But welcome, Laurine, welcome.
Thank you so much, Heather, for having me on here. I really appreciate it. We've been both following each other for a while now. I think it's been over a year or almost 2 years now. So that's pretty awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's nice to have a fellow Canadian, so I don't have to really change up my accent so you understand me.
Exactly.
Right? It's just going to get worse. Everyone's going to be like, what are they talking about?
Yeah.
So why don't we just jump right in? Why don't you tell us all about you?
So I am a women's weight neutral fitness, intuitive eating, and body image coach, and I help women heal their relationship with food, their body, and exercise, so they can stop letting their body size and food rules control how they live their lives and achieve wellness without the obsession and all the diet culture bullshit.
And how did you get into that line of work?
Okay, it's a long story. Sit down, folks. Okay, so I'm gonna start from all the way in the beginning and then work my way up. Sounds good?
Sounds good.
Okay, awesome. So wasn't always in this line of work. I have been coaching women for over 13 years now, I would say. But I spent half of that stuck in diet culture myself, right? And like growing up, I always kind of had I had low self-esteem, low confidence, and all that kind of stuff. Just being a young Canadian girl growing up in the 90s where things were heroin chic and you needed to be as skinny as you possibly could, right? But I guess, quote unquote, lucked out in the thin department growing up, because I was thin, and I learned really early on what thin privilege was, right? And I use it to my advantage, a lot of the time. But besides that, I remember I got into fitness for the same kind of reason why a good majority of women get into fitness, right? They want to lose weight, they want to make their body look a certain way, they want to feel really good in their skin, yada yada yada, right? But when I got into fitness, I got into it for all the wrong reasons, right? So putting weight loss at the number one thing, trying to get the abs, trying to get the butt, whatever, and I actually ended up really enjoying strength training, but at the same time, I started to use running as a way. My relationship with running and cardio specifically started to get very toxic. So if anything kind of like came in the way of my runs, right? I would get upset. I would get like actually very angry, because that meant that I wouldn't have been able to burn the amount of calories that I needed to during the day, right? And then because I got into running, because I got into strength training, I decided at that moment in time, I think I was, how old was I? Was I 19? Yeah, I think I was 19 at that time. That I put two and two together. I'm like, okay, so what can I kind of do with this? I like this running thing. I like this strength training thing. Oh, personal training. Okay, so let me go to school for to get my degree in coaching, right? Um, but back then, and when I actually look at it from this angle now, the reason why I really got into personal training was because I genuinely thought that, oh my God, this is a career that I can have that will keep my body smaller, right? This is a career that I can have so that I can learn all the tricks of the trade, right? To make sure that I could stay small for as long as I possibly could, right? And I'm able to see that now because I'm on the other side of it, right? But back then it was just like, it was disguised as, I just want to help people, get healthy. But back then, healthy to me meant thin, right? And unhealthy to me meant living in a larger body. So I did all that stuff, graduated, worked for a couple companies, and then decided that I wanted to work for myself. So I opened up my own business. And back then I was doing in-home personal training. So I would go around, train men and both women. And then I quickly learned that your body, in terms of the personal training space, was your business card. I kept on hearing that, I kept on being told that you will only have a successful business if your body looks a certain way. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm small, but I'm not muscular. I don't look like the girls on, those like fitness model girls on the magazines with like the six-pack abs, the cut shoulders, whatever, right? And I'm like, okay, well, clearly I need to up my game because I wanted to have a successful business. So that's when I got into bodybuilding. I started competing in bikini, and then I moved on to figure. And I would do this for roughly around 4 years that I spent as a bodybuilder. But that's where everything really just really messed me up, really messed me up. Like growing up, I always had a problem with using food to cope. So I was always an emotional eater because growing up in my family, everything was always fine, even though it most definitely wasn't fine. So from a very young age, I learned, okay, I'm just going to use food to cope, with all this crap that's going on that no one apparently wants to deal with. But that emotional eating actually then would trickle its way into an actual binge eating disorder. And that was due to the fact that all the restriction, right? When you are bodybuilding, you are on such a restrictive diet. It is, you have to eat every 2 hours. You have to burn X amount of calories a day by doing 3 hours of exercise all day, no matter what. Like your whole life is scheduled. It's a second time. It's a full-time second job essentially. And it just came to the point where it's just like it got so bad that like I was finding myself, there's 7 days out of the week, probably 5 out of those days, I found myself driving my car to a park where I knew that no one could see me with all of the goodies like that I wasn't allowed to eat right beside me in a bag. And then I would eat it all, feel like complete shit about myself because especially when you're in the bodybuilding world, you're told that like, oh, the girl that's next to you is going to she's not doing any of this shit. She has more willpower than you. She's willing to go further than you are, right? It's just that like kind of like really bad mindset. So I would feel like total garbage And this would go on for years, just cycle it on a weekly basis. And because I would feel like garbage, what would I do? I would then find myself abusing laxatives. I would then find myself doing more exercise as a way to punish myself or to make up for like the food that all the bad stuff that I thought I did, the night before. I would find myself, if my coach said that I could eat 1,200 calories that day, I'd be like, oh, okay, I'll eat 6, right? It was just like this horrible cycle that just went on and on and on. The body checking just was unreal. Like from the minute I woke up in the morning to the minute I laid down at night, my thoughts, the only thing that went on in my head was thoughts of how many calories I'm allowed to eat today. What does that even consist of? How many calories do I need to burn today? What does my body look like constantly? What is my weight at? It was just like, it was crazy. I would even find myself out, like say I went out with friends. I'd find myself making an excuse to go to the bathroom just so I could check to see how thin I was, and I would do that constantly throughout the day. I didn't need my body didn't change from 2 hours ago. Like, why am I doing this? Like, it was just an obsession. And then I went through divorce. And then after that, I left my first wife. I'm recently getting remarried again in September to my lovely fiance Leah. But I did leave my first wife because the relationship was just not good. We won't get into that. But yeah, I ended up leaving my first wife. I moved to a different city by myself where I knew no one. And I just remember laying in my bed and being like, what do you want your life to look like, Laurine? Like, seriously, what do you want your life to look like? Do you want to continue feeling how you feel right now, right? And the answer was no. I didn't want to wake up I wanted to just feel normal. Like how I felt when I was a kid, being able to wake up in the morning and not to have the first thing that floods your brain calories and your body size and all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, I'm so tired of it all. Like it was just, I just couldn't do it anymore, like I just could not. And then the stars kind of aligned that day, which was really weird, but also really fantastic at the same time. Because I remember scrolling through Instagram. I don't think TikTok was around then. Or maybe it was and I just didn't know about it. I don't know. But this was 6 years ago. And yeah, was TikTok then? Anyway, that's beside the point. So I remember laying in bed, scrolling through Instagram, and I remember seeing a post pop up. And I don't remember who the creator was, but thank God for her post. And the post it was just her kind of describing everything that I was going through, like the food guilt, the food noise, the obsession with calories, the obsession with exercise, the punishing with your body with exercise, the restriction, like everything kind of just like everything that she said, I was like, this is me. And then at the end, she's like, these are the things that I did to like get myself out of it. And this is like where I am now. And I'm like, you mean to tell me that this whole time I've been like doing bodybuilding, thinking I need to have my body look a certain way? You mean that there are women, like this exists, there are women who just wake up in the morning and live their lives? Like,
what?
That's a thing? Like,
right?
I didn't even know that was real, because like I literally thought that like this is my life. I am a woman, so I have to do everything possible to stay thin, I have to constantly be on diets. I have to constantly be worried about my weight. I have to constantly be obsessed with my appearance and what other people think of me. This is just what I thought. Like I literally thought, I'm like, this is just womanhood. That we all do it because everyone around me was doing the same shit. I didn't know any different. So when I discovered that, I was like, oh my God. Like it was like, oh, kind of like moment, you
Right.
know? So naturally, the kind of like nerd that I am, I started researching. I dove right in. I started researching. I started reading all the books. I started reading all the studies. Started teaching myself, just fully engulfing myself in all this body neutral and anti-diet, intuitive eating sort of like information. And I'm like, all right, you're you're doing it. Like you're doing it. And granted, I would call myself a one toe in the bucket at first. So like I wasn't like even though I did all the research and stuff, like it really interests me. I wanted to learn all about it, but actually putting everything into practice, that's a different approach. Like
Right.
because coming from like abusing like super restrictive eating disorder background, like abusing exercise and all that kind of stuff, just having a really shitty relationship with food, exercise, in my body, there was fear. I was scared and what was I mostly afraid of was fear of weight gain. That was it, you know? Um, that was a huge factor. And also, like, okay, can I actually be, because I'm a health coach, I work in this health industry, my health is super important to me. It will always be, it has always been, right? So it's just like, is really eating whatever you want, like,
Worth it?
healthy, right?
Yeah.
And worth it, right? And so I had one toe in the bucket. So I took baby steps, right? Like, which I'm actually glad that I did it this way because it really allowed me to, it wasn't overwhelming, like it wasn't, um, and this is actually what I do with my clients. I help them make baby steps, right? So they don't become overwhelmed and it actually works. But um, yeah, I'm glad I did it that way. I took baby steps. But anyway, after I went through the whole process myself, um, I was like, I switching my business. I'm like, I cannot help women. Like, once you see it, you can't unsee the toxic shit. Like you can't, and you can't ignore it, right? Like as I was going through my own journey, I still had my clients that I need to train. They came to me because they wanted to lose weight. I can't just all of a sudden be like, sorry, I can't help you anymore. But I slowly I phased them out as a as I moved along my journey and all that kind of stuff. I did phase them out because I was like, I can't do this anymore. I know how damaging approaching wellness and health is to women. And I'm like, I'm not going to be a part of that industry, or that side of the industry. I'm going to be a part of this side of the industry, which is the anti diet, body neutral, weight neutral approach to your health industry. Right. Um, and, uh, and yeah, that's kind of my journey to here. And then I revamped my business. I did lose a couple clients because of it, obviously. Granted, they want a six pack. I'm not going to do that with them anymore, But, uh, and then kind of like here we are today, you know? Did that answer your question?
Yeah. No. And I have a lot of questions now.
Sure.
So I only know about the body building world because of my cousin,
Hmm.
and he calls it reverse anorexia.
Oh,
So
okay.
when I had my first intervention, because there's been a couple,
Hmm.
because I can't just do things once, we got to do it a while, a couple more times till I'm really good at it.
Hmm.
Uh, and he was saying that, right? Like you talking about, you're probably getting up at 2 o'clock in the morning and eating fish and broccoli that's already pre-portioned,
Oh, I don't even want to like you
right?
even
Like
saying that, I was just
I
like,
know,
oh, no, I can't. There's like literally certain foods that like I will never be able to eat again. Like
yeah,
ever in my life. And it sucks because I mean,
no, it's PTSD. It really is, right?
it's
And
so hard.
so I have a question though. What's the difference between bikini modeling and figure?
It's your
What's the
physique. It's the physique and the poses, and also the
oh
actual suit itself, the bedazzled suit, the way it's bedazzled.
oh
So bikini is a bikini, right?
right
There's a bottom piece, there's a top piece. So
right
figure, but the suit. the top and the bottom are kind of connected with like a crisscrossy thing. So it's pretty,
Okay.
it just has extra bits. but
Oh, okay.
but basically it's the physique and it's the poses. So like the even though as it's evolved, actually, like if you were to actually look at what bodybuilding was for women back in the day, you'll actually see that like what figure is now was actually like how big they're like these women need to get now is was
Mhm.
actually female like bodybuilding that for the category. And then what bikini is right now, how big they have to get is actually figure. So they're the requirements just keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger and
Bigger
bigger
and
and
bigger.
bigger, which equals women need to continue to I did natural, so I never took any
Mhm.
you know.
Steroids.
Yep.
Yep.
Even though I abused laxatives and stuff. Um but uh but yeah, the requirements for them are just getting bigger and bigger. But when I was in it, bikini was smaller. You're just smaller.
Mhm.
You weren't as
Okay.
jacked, I guess.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, no. And it's like that with every, I think, sport now, because I even see it in figure skating. I come from a figure skating world. No one could do quads back in 1980 something. Now you're doing like 1,000. I'm like, that's not even humanly possible.
Right.
But so what was that like when you were in this world? Because when you're with your people and you're doing this, everyone else, and I'm just going to say from like my opinion, everyone else is on glue and you guys know what the deal is, right? So when you're in a bubble, so
Mm-hmm.
to speak, you can't see the mayhem. When you're in the hurricane, you don't see the hurricane, I guess
Oh,
is what I'm
for
trying to get at.
sure. 100%. 100%. Like even like my wife at the time, like a lot of times she was like, "Can we just like hang out?" You know? And her saying that when she knew that I had to go to the gym for 3 hours irritated me. Like
Mhm.
that was like it was anything, and I didn't see it as like I would get mad at her for thinking that would be okay. But when you're in on the other side, it's just like, why wouldn't that be okay, Laurine?
Right.
Why would your wife tell you by telling you, hey, can you just take a day off today to hang, watch movies, chill, whatever? Why is that a problem? And it's like it when you're on the other side and when you're not in the toxic mindset, you're able to see that, that it shouldn't be a problem. But when you're in it and people are just like, Maureen, chill, like, or, or they want to do something and you just like, you can't do it. You just don't see it. Like you can't tell someone who has such a toxic mind the toxic things about what they're thinking. They won't believe you because it's impossible. Especially because like in that world, you only hang out with other bodybuilders. And it's not like I cut off my other friends or anything. I hung out with them still, but the majority of people that I hung around were bodybuilders or people who wanted to become bodybuilders, right? Because you are stuck in this bubble. And when you live in that bubble, it's you just hear, and when you're constantly just hearing the same messages over and over and over and over and over again, that's all you think, right? And anything else that's not within your realm of thinking is wrong or
Yeah,
not
because
right.
I remember like, because I've always battled weight my whole life. But if someone said to me, Heather, you can't work out this morning, it was like the sky is falling.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, Jesus himself better come up here and tell me no. Because otherwise, I don't care if there's a hurricane going on. I'm running. Like I'm going, I'm doing whatever I gotta do.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, like when you're living in that world of other bodybuilders, if you don't go, oh, there's going to be hell to pay. And now you're probably going to be subject of, you're going to be the hot topic, so to speak. You don't have the drive. You don't have this. You
Right.
don't,
You're not
there's so
disciplined
much
enough.
shit that comes
Right.
along with that.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember it was after I had a really bad binge, and I think it was around Easter time, because um back in the day, Cadbury, you couldn't get mini eggs unless it was Easter. Now you can get mini eggs, those little
Hmm.
chocolate things. Those are one of
Yep.
my favorite
Yep.
things. So delicious. But anyway, so you couldn't get them only when it was Easter. So actually, this came to mind, and it's funny that it's actually Easter weekend. Um, but I remember just getting like the biggest bag that I could find. I remember typing in like I felt so, after I binged on them, I felt like such garbage that I'm like, I need help. I need to tell someone who is also in this sort of world to see if I can, like, I don't know, just get a little bit of support here. And I remember typing in like the group chat that we had or like whatever. And did I get the support that I needed? No.
Oh,
Nope, nope, no. Did I get told you shouldn't have done that? You're at this rate, you're not gonna be stage ready. Again, the girl who's standing beside you on the stage is more disciplined than you, blah 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 blah. And I was like, all right. So that
huh.
even made me feel even worse about
Of course.
myself,
Yeah.
so yeah.
No, and it's hard. It's hard when you're living in it and it's just your world and that's normal to you. And you're like, God, and when everyone's drinking the Kool-Aid, so to speak,
Hmm.
no, like I'm sorry you didn't get the support you wanted, but like, God, like, that's awful. And mini eggs are amazing.
Yeah.
But like,
Yeah.
but I don't even understand because, okay, I don't come from the bodybuilding world. I'm like, dude, if you're working out that much, I don't even know if it would have made a difference. But when you're in that fucked up mentality, because I know I would, I was a slave to the scale
Hmm.
in my eating, like my full on bulimia and anorexia. If I put a drop of water into me, I clearly gained 1,000 pounds.
Right.
Clearly,
And
clearly that happened in 1.2 seconds.
hmm.
And the body checking and the photos and the photo shit, the photos. I have a book of my weight. Like, I don't even know how I got anything done. All I did was stand on a scale all day. Right? Like,
Right. No, it's serious. Like,
and you just get further down that rabbit hole, but it's not maybe in our like world, it's not fucked up. I'm perfectly normal.
right.
Right?
And you
But
guys are
you
the
get
ones who
so
don't care
distant
about your
from
health.
reality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It is. You are like, and your ability to even see anything different is you don't have the ability to. Like, it is just you have such glasses on and you only see one way. And
Yeah.
that's the only way. You're right, everyone else is wrong. You're the healthy one. Everyone else is just unhealthy and doesn't give a shit about themselves. And it's horrible. And like I like
Yeah.
during that time too, I feel like I would consider myself a very nice person. Like I would consider myself genuine and helpful and thoughtful and stuff, but during my bodybuilding days, I was an asshole.
Yeah, 'cause you're hungry. Ah!
Like I was. Like it wasn't good. Like I was nice to the people that were in my life, but like other people, like I looked down upon people. Like the way I was so judgy about
Mhm.
people and their body looked like and how they took care of themselves. Like if you didn't exercise or eat clean, I wasn't about to make friends with you. Like it was just so
Yeah.
like how closed-minded is that?
But
Just
that's the
because.
disease though. That's because I was like that too, right? Someone would say to me, "Oh, just like eat a cheeseburger." I'm like, "It's not my fault you don't care about your body." Right? Like,
Yeah.
wrong thing to say, I know. But that's how you start thinking.
It is, and it's horrible. It really is. Yeah, it's just not good. And even still, I remember I on my TikTok. This was sometime. It was it last year or the year before? I can't remember. But I made a series called "Untold Stories of an Ex-Female Bodybuilder," and the bodybuilders came for me in the comments because they did
Oh yeah.
not they don't like it, and they don't like it when you like
out them.
when you out them, and yeah, and they're like, well, I never saw any of this happen, or nothing, none of this happened to me. And I'm like, okay, that's great for you, but it happened to me, and this is my story. And that's why I started the story saying, this is my story. Like, I didn't say this
Yeah.
is your story, but it's just they're in such denial of the actual toxic stuff that's actually going on. um it's almost cult like. And I've never been
Yep.
like in a cult, and I don't want to take away from people who have been in actual like cult, because I mean that's some serious,
It's brainwashing at the end of the day. It
that's
is
serious
brainwashing.
stuff, you know what I mean? And I
Yeah.
never, they have to go through a lot of trauma and all that kind of stuff, right? But yeah, I almost felt brainwashed, to be honest.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. I fully believe that. Like the so what all I have to do is watch like a WWF documentary. Jesus. Right? Like everyone's messed up.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone's messed up, right? Between drugs, alcohol, the bodybuilding, not eating properly, whatever else you're doing. Come on, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like to say that it doesn't happen. Oh, okay.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Like already. Who's delusional now? Right.
And especially like with the drugs piece for like bodybuilding, it's just like, okay, you let me know when genetically, just by pure genes, a woman can get that big.
Right.
Ain't gonna happen.
No.
Ain't gonna happen. Right?
No. And so what was that like when you left? Like was there a lot of fallout? Like did you get ostracized? Was it like, well, she just
Um,
doesn't care, so pound sand kind of thing?
no, I wouldn't say that I got ostracized or anything. I feel like it was just like a quiet leave, like no one really said anything about it. Um, the only thing that I feel like was really like affected was just like from a business point of view. Like I basically had to rebuild my business
Right.
back down from the bottom again. Like, because different
Right.
messaging, you're speaking to different people, right? So different messaging all around. Lost followers, obviously, because if you're following me when I was
Yeah.
doing, when all of my things on Instagram were um, how to grow your glutes, or these exercises for flat abs, or you know what I mean, like just like the
Yeah.
how it's geared towards people looking to shrink their bodies, and have that be their number one focus. So it's just from that point of view, yeah, lost a bunch of followers, lost some clients, which is granted, and I don't care. This
Yeah.
is the way I am now, and if you don't like it, then peace.
Yeah. So when you were lying in bed that day and you get this message from above, basically divine intervention, and you said you went slow, what was your first thing that you started doing?
So the first thing that I started doing was working on the intuitive eating piece. So for me, binge eating was a huge problem. So that was, I basically had to go through a process of like a refeed, like refeeding my body,
Yep.
helping it learn to trust that I'm going to feed it like properly on a daily basis. Because at that point too, I felt like I was, if I'm being honest, like um, what are those things that people have in their kitchen that they put like the food down, and they're like a garburator?
Like a scale?
Garburator? Is that a
Oh, yeah.
Okay, I
Yeah,
felt
yeah,
like
yeah.
a human
Garbage disposal?
garbage disposal because of how
Yeah.
much food I had. No connect. There was no connection between hunger and fullness. Like I could
Right.
not feel my fullness. I could eat and eat and eat and eat and eat
Yeah.
and eat. And the only way I would feel my fullness is when I have already reached the point of like wanting to throw up.
Right.
So it was like getting those connections back, like understanding, what does hunger feel like, and what does regular people fullness feel like, because I just hadn't had it, right? Because like for the
Yeah.
longest time I had been dieting since it was like for 15 years of my life essentially. Um, and when you do that, when you're hungry, you don't let yourself eat, you chew gum or you drink some
Yeah.
water
Water.
or
I was going to say, drink some water.
or you do something, right? So if you're
Or you go
constantly
for a run.
right, you're doing something to distract yourself, right? So if you're
Yeah.
it's like almost like think of it as someone comes and knocks on your door. They knock, you don't answer. They knock, you don't answer. They knock, you don't answer. It's only a matter of time before they're like, screw you, I'm leaving, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of like that. I felt like with like my like hunger and fullness cues, right? Like my body was like
Yeah.
for so many years being like, hey bitch, feed me, I'm hungry. And I'm like, no bitch.
No.
No, you're
No
trying
way.
to
No one's
you're
home.
trying to sabotage me. Like thinking that like
Yeah.
hunger equals my body trying to like ruin me. And it's just like, no,
Right.
no, that's just your body like that's just a survival mechanism. Like,
That's the
yeah,
thing.
like your body doesn't have arms of its own, so like
Yeah.
it can't you need to eat the food. Like it can't just eat
Yeah.
it by itself. And that's its way of being like, feed me. And relearning, having to even relearn that, like that was hard, knowing not to fear hunger, because for the longest time I feared hunger. And think of it, like, isn't that weird? Like, isn't that?
Yeah. No, you're preaching to the
I
choir
know, I
here.
know, I
Right?
know,
Like, no.
I know.
Yeah. Like, no, I get it. Like, and the beginning of my recovery, I bawled my face off. Every time I had to have something, I cried. I wanted it. I wanted to. And I would just bawl my face
Hmm.
off. Because all those thoughts, all those feelings, I would go into full sweats. I would get nauseous, right? Like, oh, like it was torture.
Hmm.
And like you say, been fighting my body for so long, fighting genetics, fighting whatever. And you have this sense of control. No, look what I've done. I'm finally here. Damn it.
Hmm.
And to just be like, oh, here, take it all back. Oh my God. Why would I do that?
Hmm. Right.
Oh, to live? I don't
Yeah,
know.
exactly.
Right? Breathing's a thing.
Life. Don't you? Isn't that something that you like?
Yeah, right. My one good addiction, breathing. Right.
But yeah, so I really needed to get this like binging thing in check. So I took it one step at a time. So like I kept my exercise schedule the way it was. Um, Granted, when I look back at it, I was probably still over exercising. But one thing at a time, right?
Yeah.
So like, yeah, I really wanted to get this binging thing in check and to get my body to get those hunger and fullness cues like just back, like working in sync with one another. So I really spent a lot of time doing that. And yeah, after a while.
And sorry, how long do you think that took? Because people are going to want to know.
Okay, yeah.
Right? That's a really
Yeah,
common
okay.
question. Like, how long?
Okay, so probably I would say, because I was doing things, the thing is like things take longer when you do them on your own. This was all new to me, right? Like I was
Mm-hmm.
learning, I read the books, read the papers, read the whatever, right? But I was still winging it. You know what I mean? At the same time, I didn't know how to approach this. I know how to diet, not how to undiet.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
So for me, the whole process of that took probably, I'd say I felt good about like my relationship with food around like the year mark. I would say a year,
Yeah.
maybe a little bit over. Um, but that again is because I did it on my own. I was winging it. I was throwing shit at the wall and see what stuck.
Right. Yeah.
Um, or what stuck? What stuck? Learn English, Laurine.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's how long that took. And then the whole exercise piece, it's just like one of the biggest things for me was you do not rest. Rest equals you're lazy. Rest equals you're not working hard enough. Rest equals you losing all of your gains. Rest equals you not burning enough calories. Rest equals you're just a shitty ass person. you know?
Yep.
So that was the second part that I really had to work on, and how I kind of just like did that. It's just I started just moving my body in conjunction with how I felt, and started just like trusting in that, because a lot of this work, it honestly is just regaining trust within your body, and your body regaining
Mhm.
trust within you. And then you guys working at a team, because that's what it is. Your body needs you to do shit. You need your body to do shit, So you got to work with it as a team versus this sort of like enemy relationship that like a lot of us women have with
Yeah.
our bodies from the time we pop out of our mom's vaginas, you know?
Yeah.
Um, but uh but yeah, so I started working with my energy levels. So like for instance, instead of um being on like a strict schedule, I'm a person I've always liked to move. Like even when I was a kid, like I played sports, not competitively, just like, gym and with friends and all that kind of stuff. Rode bike, skateboarded, played basketball, like just I'm an active person just naturally. And I know
Hmm.
now that's probably because of I do have combined type ADHD, so I think that's part of the hyperactivity side of things, where it's just like Lori needs to burn some energy off so she could be calm. So my
Yeah.
brain's not not like having so many thoughts, jumbling up there. It's just a mental health thing, I guess. But So yeah, so basically um instead of exercising on a schedule, basically waking up and be like, how do you feel? Like generally, like how do you feel? How much time do you have? What is it that you actually want to do? Because for the longest time too, I could only exercise in a certain way. I wasn't allowed to do anything else because it didn't count, right?
Right.
I had to always work out to complete exhaustion or it didn't count, right? And it's
Right.
just asking myself these questions. What are my energy levels like? What do I actually feel like doing? How much time do I realistically have? And then just coming up with things that I wanted to do, and just allowing myself to have variety in the way that I move, allowing myself, this is a big one, to stop exercising if it no longer felt good, because sometimes that happens. Like you're in the middle of workout, you think this is how you want to work, and you're just like, I'm tired, I don't want to do this anymore. Allow myself to be like, okay, go home, you can do that. And it's just that sort of like repetition of that sort of step by step process. And then at the same time working through those negative thoughts that pop in that go, you didn't do enough today,
Yeah.
restrict, you didn't burn enough calories today, restrict, you got to go extra hard tomorrow, you're bad. Like just working through those, learning
Yeah.
how to reframe those thoughts and redirect them, because at the end of the day our thoughts are just thoughts until we give them meaning. Like we are in control of what thought comes in, we have no control over that. Our brain just randomly just wants to do that on its
Right.
own. you know but
Right.
we are in control of how we allow that thought to then dictate what we do afterwards,
Right.
right? Do we allow this thought to allow us to cause us to spiral, or do we say, "Hey thought, that's interesting. You're a dick," and try your hardest to redirect it into something that's going to actually serve you and serve the journey that you're on, right? And at the beginning, this sort of like, and it's the same approach that I approach even like bad body image days, right? Okay, you wake up. The goal with this kind of like body neutrality work at the beginning, and not at the beginning, but like as a whole, isn't to get to a point where like you're you can wake up every day and you're like, I'm a hot piece of ass, everyone wants to eat me because I'm just so much of a snack. Like you just, that's not the goal.
Yeah.
That is impossible. Like even the most stereotypical, by societal standards, hot people don't wake up every day and think that way. um
Yeah.
but the goal is to get to a point where, again, You're allowed to have negative days. You're allowed to have these negative thoughts pop in, but it's like, do you allow them to then dictate your actions moving forward? And that's the difference, right? Because when you have a bad body image day, or when you have a negative thought that comes in terms of your relationship with food, or even your relationship with exercise, because the thought says, yeah, you're going to gain 10 pounds for eating that donut, or the thought says that you didn't burn enough calories today to deserve the right to eat, to go out for dinner with friends later, or look how flabby your arms look in that shirt. You should probably cover yourself up. Like, these are all the same, like, they're negative, they're different negative thoughts, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the way that you approach them is the exact same. But it's that approach that's difficult to learn.
And that's so hard, because especially when your body is changing so quickly. I imagine your body changed fairly quickly after not doing what you were doing, after what I was not doing anymore, right? And I'm honest about it. I was covering up mirrors with towels. I couldn't look at myself. I was all I did was cry. I should have taken out stocking Kleenex. Oh my God. All I did was bawl my face off for a good 7 months. Like, straight. Did not stop crying. And that's hard. Like, how did you keep pushing through that?
Honestly, I think let me think about it. So I think my job helped a lot with that, if I'm being honest, because my whole career I coach, right? My whole career I have to be in a gym. I have to do certain things. There's no room for avoidance. So it's that constant application, I think, also helped a lot. That constant, also, like, my clients need me, you know? I have to be an emotional sort of, like, have to have the emotional capacity to deal with helping them through their stuff, like, you know? So it's like, I feel like that actually benefited me in a lot of ways, because I did not have really the room to be able to avoid the uncomfortable.
Right.
And yeah, I was constantly just put in positions where it's just like, you have to deal with this. You have to deal with this. Like, you cannot turn away. You cannot turn away. You have to deal with it. So I just feel like that was a big help, if I'm being completely honest.
Yeah. And no, thank you very much. And it's sitting in the shit sucks. Oh my God. Sitting in the shit and feeling feelings. No, my whole life, I don't know, deflect. Right. And that's why we get whatever coping mechanism that we have. Right. And I can see it, though, with you working with different people on a daily basis. You're getting taught lessons all the time. And what a gift you got there, right? Because even though you're the trainer, the person teaching, a lot of times people come into our lives, and I fully believe everyone comes into our life for a reason. You could be learning something and maybe you didn't think in that moment, but down the line, oh, okay, now this makes sense.
For
right?
sure. And also, too, like, a lot of this work is in your mind, because what it is what we're essentially doing when it comes to healing your relationship with food, your body, and exercise, is think of your brain as like a hard drive for however many years, however many decades, because it's usually decades that, like, of all this shit, like, that we learn, you know? As we start learning all this toxic stuff from a very young age, right? So 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, 50 years sometimes with my clients, right? So that's in there. That's in your brain. That's a lot of information, you know? And this work, what it is, it's reprogramming that, you know?
Yeah.
So that you no longer believe the things that are keeping you in that unhappy, just toxic state. And I find like the reason why I really truly believe that, like, me having to continue with my coaching, me having to put myself into it, like in a gym setting, me having to do all these things, that um the self-talk, because if I'm it, like me telling myself these things, like these like thought reframes, and me trying to come up with different ways I can redirect my thoughts. Okay, that's me. But if I'm also helping my client do the same thing, those words, my I'm saying those words again. That's another opportunity for me, for that belief, that new belief to come out of my mouth.
Yeah.
Right. And um I am a strong believer in that the voices we hear, the words we read, and the images we see have a huge impact on our belief system, and our beliefs dictate our actions. This is why whenever someone comes in coaching with me, I'm like, okay, this coaching program is going to help you a lot, but what I also need you to do is to start changing things around you. So that's why I love things like podcasts, right? That's why I love things like social media. There's a negative side to it, but there's also a positive side to it, right? I wouldn't be here today speaking to you if it wasn't for that social media post. So, yeah, following different creators that live in similar body styles as you, or who are heavier, you know what I mean? That are like proving, like, you need to be seeing it, you need to be hearing it, you need to be like listening to it, all the same sort of like information for your brain to absorb it, right? And because I was constantly not only telling myself that to me, but also to my clients, and then they're also saying it, you know what I mean? So just another opportunity for my brain to be like, okay, we get this info, like you know what I mean?
Yeah. It's learning a new language at the end of the day, right? No one learns to speak Spanish in an hour, I don't think, right? It takes a while. And you got to just keep repetitive.
Yeah. But I do think I probably, like thinking about it, I probably think this journey would have been a lot harder for me if I wasn't in the coaching space. Like if I didn't have to, like if it wasn't a coach at all and I was just a regular person who had like a 9 to 5, I think that like I would have had a harder time with it because of the environment that like I would have had to be in, because the truth is that diet culture is everywhere, especially if I work into an office. Like, do you know, the favorite type of office talk for a lot of people is what new diet they're on, or how much weight they've lost, or whatever, you know? And I really, what I did, I created a bubble for myself. I have my own business. You know what that means? I get to create the space that I want to work in. I rented out, I didn't have my own studio. I never had my own studio, but what I would do, I rented out a private women's only studio to teach my classes, to do my personal training out of. So when I had to be in a gym setting, it's just me and my clients. No one else is in there, right? Like, I just feel like I had the opportunity for a bubble to be created, and I love that bubble. And I lived in that bubble. But the reality for a lot of people is that they don't have that bubble. Their bubble gets popped every single time, right? So
no, and I like your bubble. And I'm there with you, because when you're talking about and I'm very big, and I was never brought up like believing in, like, I don't want to say the word affirmations, because some of those I think are kind of garbage, but just like ask, believe, receive, right? Today I'm going to have a good day. I'm a golden rule kind of person. You're nice to me, I'm nice to you, right? So far, so good. But when you, law of attraction, right? If you're around negative people, negative's going to come to you. I believe that, right? You're just around toxic people all day long.
Believe that.
If you're happy, you find the happy people. And it's hard getting out of that one bubble to another, but I always use the door analogy. Once you get through one door, the next door is not so hard to open. And then eventually doors just open for you. It's like at the supermarket. They just open, right? And it just makes life so much nicer.
It does. And that's why I strongly believe too, like with all this like sort of work, like whether you're healing from an eating disorder or whether you're just healing from disordered eating or whatever it is, you know, body image issues, body dysmorphia, whatever. Community is huge. You know what I mean? We found each other because of the bubble. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and it's a lot easier to get through this because it's hard. It's, you know, it's recovery is hard. It's not easy. It's not something that like you should be doing like on your own, you know? Like you need a community of people if you can get it, you know?
Yeah. And I think though too, because we touched on social media, and it was because of TikTok I found you, right? And different like again, coming out one bubble, trying to find, just wanting someone to help. And I remember messaging a lot of people, crickets. You and Recovery Mom were the only two that wrote me back. And everyone else wants to sell you something, follow my blah, like, and that's fine. But I guess because I'm kind of cynical and stuff, and I'm like, well, is it going to work? Like, are you just here? Like, I don't know. It doesn't take much to be nice to somebody.
It really doesn't. Like,
right?
At all. But that's how like we create community, right? Like that's TikTok, great place to create community, right? Like well, if they want to talk to you, you know, you try. Like I message people who follow me all the time, and I'm like, hey, thanks for the follow. Where are you from? Nothing, you know. But then some people do answer, you know, and then we spark up conversation, and you know, we can help each other out and all that kind of stuff, you know. Same thing with Instagram. That's why DMs are there. You know, we wouldn't have a private messaging thing if it wasn't meant to try to build a community. And the more you can be part of a community that gets you, that understands the things that you're going through, and that can like hold your hand a little bit throughout the way, like you're just going to be better off at the end.
Now, what are your thoughts on this Ozempic movement?
Okay, so I am a strong believer in body autonomy, right? If I'm being honest, there was a point in my undieting, intuitive eating, anti-diet journey where I felt like maybe even I was becoming a little bit toxic about it. Because again, I was kind of seeing everyone who's still dieting, well, you're dumb. You know, because I'm the one who sees the light. Like again, Laurine.
Right.
Just because you think some way doesn't mean everyone else is going to think that way, right? And this happens actually. I find that like to a lot of people actually who choose this journey is because we see and I think it's coming from a sense of passion, a sense of I have seen the light. Let me show you the light because grass is greener over on this side when you're not obsessed with calories and food and all that kind of stuff. It's nicer, it's freer, it's a little bit more relaxed, right? Less stress in an already stressful life. And you want that for people, right? You don't want people to suffer. You see how awesome it can be when you're not thinking about your weight, you know, and you want that. So you're passionate about it, right? But I feel like some of us can come off a little bit too strong, like kind of like Jehovah's Witnesses, like join the church. But so I have backed off a lot, like and here's where that belief of like everyone has body autonomy to do what they want, right? Like I'm not going to judge someone for wanting to take a weight loss drug. If you can afford it and that's what you want to do, go ahead. Do I want to hear about how much weight you've lost? No. And if you keep on telling me about it, I'm going to change the topic of conversation, right? Because just as like there are other things
Right.
that we could talk about. Like I want to know how you're doing. I don't like this might be weird to say, but like I don't care that you drop 50 pounds. You know, like that's not the most important thing
Right.
about people to me is how much they weigh. Let's talk about real shit. You know? Um,
Right. Yeah.
but with that being said, it's just like I understand. The thing is, the reality is, and here's the way I look at it. The reality is that we live in a fat phobic society. The reality is that the world is only made for people of a certain size. Once you reach a certain size, life becomes harder, and it does. And I
Yep.
still, even though like I have gained weight, I am not nowhere near looking what I looked like when I was bodybuilding. Abs, what are those? You know,
Yeah.
But I'm still considered straight size, right? So I still, to this very day,
Yeah.
get to benefit from thin privilege. I do. I have to acknowledge that. Um, so for someone, how can I judge someone for wanting to
Yeah.
take a shot, you know, to help them live a more comfortable life in society because they don't want people to be judging them anymore. I cannot
Yeah.
judge a person for that. Like I'm sorry, I just can't. Like that would be
Right.
yeah. I don't know. Do I recommend it? No, 100% not.
Yeah.
Um, do I feel like it's a band-aid solution that doesn't actually solve any problems? 100%, right? But people,
Yeah.
that's your choice.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm with you that I agree with everything you said. I think there's going to be a lot more issues come up fairly quickly. I've already seen it in my own family with being an Ozempic user. Not me, but
If a
a family member.
doctor gave you Ozempic, I'd be like, you
Right?
need
Oh my
to
God.
like remove this doctor's license, please.
No, yeah, right? Oh my God. Could you imagine? Holy shit. But yeah, like like me personally, I can pick out anyone on Ozempic. When they've lost like their face, they get Ozempic face. I can
Hmm.
so quickly. And but I think there's going to be a lot more people, and I don't know if you went through this when you're going through your bodybuilding phase, but because when I lost my weight safely before I got
Hmm.
anorexia and bulimia, and I dropped my 100 pounds because I was a size 22 and I dropped 112 and was a normal height or
Hmm.
number weight for my height. I'm 5'10". And it's hard. How do I say this? You always identify when you're losing that much, you always identify with where you started because your body will go
Hmm.
faster than your brain.
Hmm.
Do you know what I mean? So I think there's going to be a lot more movement with this Ozempic thing because if people don't understand the size that they are versus where they
Okay.
started. So they're having like an
Hmm.
identity crisis, imposter syndrome. I think there's going to be a lot more of that come up fairly quickly. That's going to lead into more eating disorders.
100%. Because again, so it's the same thing with that I help my clients with the body image issues, right? So it's just like it's because
Yep.
the image a lot of us have up here in our brains doesn't actually match the image that happens when you look at the mirror at yourself. And that's where like the
Yep.
distortion comes from. Because it's like
Yep.
because you think you look at that's where like you think you look a certain way, but then when you actually see the real you and it doesn't match up, that's where the distress comes from. And that's
Yep.
why I also strongly believe that like mirror work and picture work is so important. Um, especially.
What's because I know for me before, like when I lost the weight healthily, I could never see myself in the mirror on how I looked, but a photo, I'm like, damn, I look good. Right? So, but explain to me what mirror and
So
picture work
the
is.
thing is like, what do we do in photos? When someone says, let's take a photo, what do? Automatically. No, but what
Smile.
else do you do with your body? Right.
I know how to
Everyone
pose.
knows what their best angle is. Everyone knows how to
Yeah.
contort their body to make it look the smallest. And that's
hmm
why people, when you take, it's not like back in the day where we only had the Polaroid cameras where you had to go get the, like it had the film, you have to get it developed and all that kind of stuff. You can only end
Yeah.
up with 4 actual good pictures because everything else was just crap. Someone's thumb was in it and like whatever, you know?
Yeah.
Um,
Right. Yeah.
but nowadays, why do you think people are just like, can you take that picture again? So that they can readjust to make themselves um,
Yeah.
look smaller, right? Versus if someone else takes the picture and then they post it on Instagram and then you see the picture that you didn't say a-okay to, and then you're gonna look at
Okay
that
for it.
photo
Yeah.
and you're gonna be like, ew, I look horrible, blah 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 blah. It's because you didn't have the opportunity to actually make yourself look quote unquote perfect in your eyes. But the reality is that we're not statues, right? Like I'm constantly moving back and
Yeah.
forth. I'm even just talking to you, you know, weird when we walk down the street, we don't just like hover, you know, it like very still,
Yeah.
like where you're constantly moving, you're bending, you're sitting, you're standing, you're laying, like you're just constantly moving, and people aren't used to looking at their bodies in movement. And that's where they
Oh.
get that sort of disconnect from, right? Because when you're taking a selfie, what are you doing?
Right.
You're still, and you're only showing yourself the parts of you that you quote unquote probably like, right? Versus when you look at
Right.
a photo of you that was taken by someone else in movement because you're going to go pick up your kid or like whatever, you know what I mean?
Oh, right.
You're going to
Yeah.
look at that because you've bent over now. Things aren't quote unquote perfect anymore. Things are hanging out. Things
Right.
are spilling out, maybe. Things are lookable or squishy or like whatever, right? Because you're not flexing, you're not doing anything.
Yeah.
So, and that causes a lot of distress. So with picture work, it's the same idea. It's the same process, whether you're doing it in mirror work and picture work. It's the same. One's just done in a mirror and one's just done for pictures, but the same steps you have to do. So essentially what it is, it's getting used to your eyes and that image that is up in here to match actually what you're actually physically seeing, because it doesn't match, and that's where the distress is coming from, right? You think you look one way, you look in the mirror and
Right.
you don't look that way, and it's usually a bigger version in the mirror. That's where the distress comes from, which is that
Yeah.
internalized fat phobia, right? um so
Right.
basically every day, and I do mirror work every single day to this day, but I just do it in a way that's not so um scheduled, if that makes sense, because it's just my way of
hmm
always keeping up the image that's in my brain with the same image that's in my eyes so that I can become comfortable looking at myself no matter the situation, no matter the photo. So I'm not constant when the first reaction I have when I look at the photo isn't ew. It's, oh, cool. You know, I might be like, I won't be ew, but I might be like, oh, I've had a better photo. But it's not like that disgust, right? That like that, and that word,
Right.
like in itself, a lot of us women
hmm
would use that word to describe what our body looks like. Is disgusting, is trash,
Yep.
it is grotesque, gross, like all those like really like vile words, garbage I've even heard, you know. And if you think about that,
hmm
that's really sad for us to be speaking to ourselves in that sort of way. But basically, what mirror work is, you look in the mirror, you judge, right? You judge for how long you want to do it. It has to be done on a consistent basis. So minimum, I always tell my clients 3 times a week is the minimum, because if you actually want it to start working, you have to be consistent with things if you want things to work, right? You can't just do something one week and then a
Right.
month later do it. Like that's just not. It's like anything in life when you're learning how to do something, right? So you choose whether you want to do 1 minute, 2 minute, 3 minute, more 4 minutes, or 5 minutes. At the beginning, most of my clients choose 1 minute because it's pretty distressing. Not gonna lie, you know. You choose if you want to do it fully clothed, half naked, so bra and panty, or just in underwear, or fully naked. You want to go in your birthday suit. Most people choose half at the beginning because
Yeah.
again, distressing. And then basically at the beginning, you're going to want to assess your level of distress. So I always do a scale from 1 to 10. 1 being it's just another day, you're chill, you're fine, no stress, like you're good. And then number 10 is you are crying. You like you do not feel good. Like you are very upset. So you kind of judge, where am I? You write it down. Okay? Just click on your timer on your phone, stare at yourself, start looking at yourself in the mirror. But you don't just look at the front. You turn to the side. You take another little mini mirror, you look at the back of you. You turn to the side. You're constantly looking so that you know what your body looks like from all different angles. And at the same time, you are listening to what is coming in. You're analyzing what is coming inside here. And you're writing that shit down word for word. Doesn't matter. It does not matter how mean it is. You're writing it down word for word. And this is because you want to get used to recognizing how you speak to yourself. Because eventually, I won't get completely into it because this could be a whole podcast episode, just me talking about this stuff. But because your brain, you'll start to recognize patterns because all of our thoughts have a deeper core belief underlining meaning. And when you can recognize the patterns in how your brain is, like what your brain is saying to you, and then identify the underlining core belief, the easier time you're going to have in being able to redirect your thoughts and reframe your thoughts. Because once you come up with a whole bunch of reframes for specific underlining core beliefs, you can basically just repeat them, right? And why that's super helpful is because the truth is that once those negative thoughts flood in, especially at the beginning, it is impossible for you to then try to be nice to yourself. Because all your brain is so used, you've trained your brain to go, one negative thought comes in, ooh, let's dig through, find another one to prove that one right. Then let's prove that one right. Then let's prove that one right. And it just goes on and on and on and on and on. And before you know it, you're just like, ow, I feel horrible about myself. Right.
Yeah. Let's go eat some cake.
Well, some people would do that, right? Use food to cope with emotion. Or some people would be like, all right, I'm not eating for a week. Right? Or I'm going to throw up. Or I'm going to whatever your vice was. We all had. Mine was laxative, and mine was food, and mine was over exercising and restriction. It was all of them. Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
Where was I at? Oh man, I'm kind of lost. Talking about mirror work.
So no, and you work up to 5 minutes,
right? 3 times a week, and then, but essentially, at the beginning, this is going to feel more planned, right? Because you're going to have your little notebook. You're going to look at your schedule. You're going to be like, all right, I got time to do this Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Let's just pulling shit out of the air, right?
Yeah.
And you're like, all right, I'm going to do this at this time on Monday. I'm going to do this at this time on Wednesday. I'm going to do this on this time at Friday. And it's going to feel more, I don't know, scheduled, right? But the whole idea is that eventually you don't want it to feel scheduled. Eventually you just want it to become a daily thing, a routine that you do just on the daily. Yeah, exactly.
Like
and no timer involved, no anything. Like now that I do it now, I don't set my timer. I don't tell myself this is what I'm doing. I'm just like, what is something that I have to do every day? I have to get dressed and I have to have a shower. Even though granted, sometimes I won't shower if I'm really lazy. Not gonna lie. But it doesn't go on for more than a day, guys. Okay. Sometimes it's just Sunday and I want to Netflix and chill and just leave me alone.
Right.
But anyway, yeah. So you just get into the habit of doing it before you hop into the shower, after you come out of the shower, depending on where you get dressed. If you have a mirror, but when you're getting dressed, you could do it then, right? And it's just a quick 1-2 check, just to continue the your eyes and the image in your brain to continue that like partnership, right? So that you can always be
Right.
like, this is what my body looks like. So you're not shocked when you see it. You're just like, oh, I know that's there.
Yeah.
That's been there for like a while. Like, and you're not
Yeah.
avoiding, because a
Right.
lot of us and a lot of my clients avoid mirrors, avoid pictures, right? And it's what
Yeah.
is but avoiding something is you teaching your brain that what it believes is true. Mirror work and picture work, you're diving in head first, and you're going at it head on, so that you could teach your brain, oh
Mm-hmm.
no, what I'm thinking isn't true. All these negative thoughts aren't true. I'm an awesome person. Doesn't matter if my belly jiggles or um hangs over my jeans, or if I have cellulite, or if I have scars, or jiggly arms, or back fat, or whatever, and that's why it's so important. But again, it needs to be done on a consistent basis in order for it to work. Also, it's not magic, right? Especially at the beginning when you first do it.
Yeah.
It's not magic, and you're going to feel uncomfortable as fuck. It's going to suck. Basically, let's just admit it,
Yeah.
it's going to suck. But actually, it like after a couple of weeks, things will start to get better. Things will start to get easier, right? And again, the expectation isn't you to then be able to have no bad body image days. You're going to have that shit, right? But at least even still, because you've been practicing the
Yeah.
reframes of the thoughts, the redirection of the thoughts during the mirror work, when those bad body image days come, holy shit, because you've been actually actively listening to where your brain goes, you're going to be like, oh, I remember this thought doesn't serve me. Let's redirect that into something that actually serves me.
Yeah.
I could still feel the emotions, right? That thought might still hurt me. We're not
Yeah.
asking for the expectation here isn't to feel any feels. Allow yourself to feel the feels. You're human. You're not a
Yeah.
robot. But the expectation here is again to not allow your body size to then dictate your actions moving forward. To not allow your body size to then dictate how you eat, how you choose to exercise, what you choose to put on your body, like how you dress, how you are intimate with your partner, right? How you show up in
Right.
social situations, whether or not you go after that job promotion, like you know what I mean, or take that opportunity, that badass
Yeah.
opportunity that came your way, because you're afraid of what other people will think of you, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like I talked a little bit too much there.
No. I like it. I like it because I don't know. I'm not gonna lie, right? Like I go on days. Some days are better than others, right? I'm
Hmm.
getting better. I'm getting better. Uh, the idea of spinning around in the mirror naked though doesn't really come like one of my things that I'd like to do. But I at a certain point though, I I'm there with I'm right there with you. Like I would like just to be like, yeah, do things bother me sometimes? Yes. And it's normally when I
Mm-hmm.
on social media too much and I'm looking at stuff. And because I come from the modeling land, my husband's a photographer. I know Photoshop when
Mm-hmm.
like everyone photoshops everything now, right? And there's no, or for me anyways, every time I thought, oh, if I ever said to myself, if I just lose
Mm-hmm.
another 5 pounds, I'll be happy. I'll live my best life. Shit. Like I'll be like running up and down the streets naked. As
There's
soon as you
always,
get that,
yeah.
there's always another, no, 5 more pounds. There's always something. And eventually you're 6 feet under, if you're me. Well, I'm not yet, but damn
Not you
close.
doing good.
You know? Thank you. Well, I was damn close.
Recovery's hard. Recovery's hard,
But
right?
it's
Like
just,
I
yep,
had a client today that relapsed, and I told
yep,
her it's okay. She didn't want to come back. She's like, I thought you were going to be
yep,
mad
it
at me. I'm
happens.
like, girl, you just started like coaching maybe 2 months ago, and you've been dealing with and you just been diagnosed with not VME, because I can't diagnose anyone, but like you just been realized that you've had
Mm-hmm.
orthorexia and atypical anorexia, and and terrible relationship with exercise. So it's just like I expected this
Hmm.
to happen. She's like, you did? And I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah. You know why? Because your journey isn't going to look like this. It's not going to be smooth sailing. You're going to climb up the ladder, and then someone's going to be like, push you back down again. Like, and I'm like,
Yeah.
we're going to do
Right.
this, and we're going to
Yeah.
do this, and we're going to do this, and we're going to go up and down and up and down, and then we're going to go up, 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 up. Oh, shit, current corner. And then we're up, 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 and it's just going to be a
Yeah.
constant that until we can get down to the bottom of it, and fix it. And she's like,
Yeah.
oh God, sorry. I'm so glad that like you said all that. And I'm like, you got to give yourself some grace, you know? Um,
Yeah.
so
Because we all have that expectation. The only one that's ever surprised when we say, oh, we relapsed is us. No one else ever is, right? Because I got to be the best. I got to do this. I got to do this. And it's like another, I don't want to say it rudely, but it's almost like a form of a game, right? If you're bodybuilding, I got to be the best. I got to be the best. I got to be the most jacked. I got to be the best at recovery. And I think most of us in this ED land have OCD. And if you don't have it, you're going to get it. Because and if you don't have anything else, well, welcome, because that's all coming with you. If you don't have
right.
anxiety, depression, PTSD, OCD, all the alphabet in the land, oh, just wait.
For sure.
Right?
Yeah.
That's just a bonus. But, and it's just, yeah, I love that you said that. Yeah, it's just going to happen. It's life.
Yeah, for sure.
Life isn't hearts
I
and
literally
roses
said to her, I'm like,
and unicorns.
you have an eating disorder. Like, this is just like, this is part of like the process, and just relax. It's okay. Let's start picking up the pieces, but we're not going to try to attack everything all at once because it's just going to make you super overwhelmed because your brain is just not in that space to be able to handle that right now, right? You're going to continue doing some toxic shit over the next couple weeks. I expect that to happen. So we're just going to start small, And it's just that it's also just that allowing room for that breathing, and that space to be like, okay,
Yeah.
I didn't do something wrong,
No, and I'm so glad I met you. And so with Easter being here, and all I can think about is mini eggs, and I cannot eat another mini egg to save my life because it is not an eating disorder thing. When I went through recovery, I started right after Christmas, so I got all the Christmas chocolate, like 90% off at Superstore. I ate so many. I had mini eggs in my deep freeze, like because I paid $1 for them, and like the size of me, not like little packs, like the big, huge Costco bags.
But that's what happens. That's what happens.
I can't do it. I can't. Please don't make me. But the Reese chocolate ones, though, those are amazing. Because I'm not a Cadbury girl. I like the one with the peanut butter inside.
Okay, so like Reese's has eggs.
Yeah, like a Cadbury egg.
Oh, you're
but
talking
it's
about
the
the
Reese
Cadbury
peanut butter
egg,
inside.
like the big one with like the cream egg. Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
I was like, what? Reese's
big
has like mini eggs?
Yeah. No, but they should. Whoever's listening, mini egg people, put some Kraft peanut butter in there. Damn.
Seriously.
I'm on to something now. But with it being Easter, and I'm going to assume people are going to have dinner. I'm going on Sunday where I'm still trying to work through being able to sit at a table and not go insane in my family's house. So what do you have to say to somebody who's like, I want to participate. How do we participate and not have the food guilt?
Great question.
What's the number one thing that we could give us?
Okay. So it's all about,
the
thing is that when you are an intuitive eaters, when you get it down, when you get the system down, and when you heal a relationship with food, the way you eat doesn't change at any point throughout the year, right? And with dieters, it's like you go on a diet and then the holidays come, so you go off the diet because you want to allow yourself to enjoy and all that kind of stuff. But like with intuitive eating, all food is good food. Like, you know what I mean? All food fits. You're not afraid to do anything, right? So like you eat the same no matter, because and I'll explain it. Because in the holidays, what goes on in the holidays usually for a lot of people, they're like they're going into it with this mindset of everything that I shouldn't be eating any of this that's here. I shouldn't have any of the cake, the chocolate, the cookies, the pie, turkey, the lamb, roast beef, whatever you eat for dinner, right? And it's that mindset right away that's going to set you up. And what happens is that a lot of people go into it with that mindset, and then what happens? They end up overeating, right? Because in their brain, they're like, I shouldn't be doing this, but I'm going to do this anyway, but it's only for today. Because come tomorrow, I'm going to get back on the bandwagon, or I'm going to, the diet starts again tomorrow. You know, that's the same phrase everyone always uses, right? And it's that attitude towards it that is messing people up. And if you were to just go into the process of having more of a abundant mindset around food, so meaning going into it with a mindset of, I can have this whenever I want. That will make it so that when you go to eat the food, you're not going to have this in your brain that you need to eat as much of it as you possibly can, because you're not going to allow yourself to have it again the next day. And you're going to be able to listen to your fullness cues, eat at a level of fullness, because you know you have the ability, and you're giving yourself the permission to then pack up whatever you didn't eat and eat it again tomorrow if you want, right? Like, you are in full control of whether or not you want to eat the thing, or if you don't want to eat the thing. Because if you don't feel like having it tomorrow, then don't eat it. Maybe you might feel like having it the next day, but it's just kind of like having that more relaxed viewpoint around food is going to help you not feel guilty for eating it, because the guilt a lot of the time comes from the overeating of the food, right? I shouldn't have eaten that, because now your physical body feels not too hot, right? Like it's the difference between if you have just a little bowl of ice cream versus the whole tub. A little bowl, you feel comfortably full. You don't feel heavy. You don't feel, well, depending if you're lactose intolerant like me, then you don't feel very good. No matter what it is. Yeah, so like maybe that was a bad example. Okay, so
not feeling too hot.
We'll choose like box of cookies. Then,
Back to the mini eggs.
So same thing. If you give yourself a couple cookies, you'll feel fine, right? It's what triggers that guilt is the overeating, because at that point your body actually physically feels unwell, and that's also an intuitive eating thing. Like, that is your body telling you overdid it. Like, when you eat too much food and you physically feel sick, that is your body's literal, like, they're literally telling you, I did not appreciate what you just did to me. So can you please, like, not do that? Or at least not do it as often, because sometimes we're going to overeat, just sometimes. Because sometimes you go out for dinner, just like, I know I'm full, but this restaurant does have, like, that pie that I really like, and it doesn't really taste good. Like, it has to be fresh. Like, like, some things just, like, have to be fresh. Like, you can't reheat it. Like, it's just not going to do it justice, and then at that point you take a couple of spoonfuls and you're like, I tipped the line. But then you don't do that very often, so it's fine. But anyway, so the guilt comes from the fact that usually people are overeating the food, because that triggers that response in your body to be like, I don't feel good. But then you take that as, I did something bad, versus, okay, clearly I ate too much, so that's a sign that I need to listen to my fullness. You know what I mean? More, right? Or, and again, just going into the whole dinner situation or holiday situation with that abundance mindset, right? Because if you give yourself the permission to eat it tomorrow, there's no reason why you need to stuff your face.
Yeah. And that, I love that. I like this intuitive eating thing, because it's always like the food grows feet and runs away from you. Like, it's just like, go hard, right? And a lot of people have the mindset too of, well, already messed up, we're going to just keep going and going and going and going, but I like that.
Right.
You can go back. It's not going anywhere.
Listen to it.
It's fine. Listen to your body. I love it. I love it, man. I'm say it again. I'm so happy. I'm so happy.
Me too. Super happy to connect.
So let's give us let's give a shout out to everybody, like for everyone to
Okay,
find you?
So
How do
you
they
can find
find
me
you?
on TikTok. Name is Laurine Kulczycky. I'll spell it out for you if you want me to spell it out, because that's going to be hard to find. But you might. Are you going to have it in the show notes, Heather? Though. Okay, Heather's going to have it in the show notes,
Yeah,
guys,
I'm gonna have it in the
'cause
show
that's
notes.
going to be
Yeah.
a hard one to spell. But I am the only Laurine Kulczycky in the world. So there's that. So there's only one of me. I used to be on Facebook and Instagram, but I decided to not go back on those platforms. Even though if you do find me on Instagram or Facebook, all my stuff is still up, all my posts are still up. I haven't deleted the account or anything. It's just I just don't post over there anymore. I'm really just focused on TikTok. And also, if you are struggling with your relationship with food, your body, and exercise, I do have a free Facebook group that I actually am very active in on a weekly basis that you can join. Totally free. We chat about this kind of stuff on a weekly basis, right? Like giving free tips on how to heal your relationship with food, your body, and exercise. And sometimes we do master classes, sometimes we do trainings. Those are usually always free too. So it's just like a really good resource for you if you're kind of even just if you're on a budget, you can't afford coaching, you want some good information that you can work on your own. Yeah, that's it. That's how you can find me. I don't have a website. I got rid of that a couple years ago because I'm just like, I don't need it. I just use social media these days.
Yeah. Well, that's so awesome. Will you come back? Like, you want to be like the resident body
Sure.
positive
I
person
would love
here on the
that.
1%? But
That
like,
would be
like, 'cause
good.
I could
Yeah,
talk
for
to you
sure.
for hours, right?
100%.
Swap some more war stories. And I love that you kept saying, find your community. I always say, find your guides. Find your guides, the people who have come out of shitty
Mhm.
situations and now
Mhm.
just want to help people. Those are your people. And man, I'm
Thank you
so
for
glad.
having me.
I'm
I
so glad
really
that you're here.
appreciate it. Yeah, and I'm
Thank you,
super
thank you,
happy to
thank you.
connect with you. Yeah, stars aligned again on TikTok. Thank you, TikTok.
Yay, thanks, TikTok. Thank you, TikTok.
Right.
Yeah, we don't want to make them mad. Thank you, TikTok.
Okay,
Yeah,
perfect.
awesome. Thank you so much.
That's all for this episode of 1% Better. To continue the conversation, head over to our website at www.1percentbetter.ca, where you can access more stories and resources. We'd also love it if you subscribed and left us a review on your favorite podcast platform. And remember, friends, progress takes patience, perspective, and sometimes a little help from people who get it. So be kind to yourself and others as we work to get 1% better every day. We'll see you back here next week.